named as possibly the worst ever Premier League weekend for referees. There was a bunch of mistakes, starting out with Chelsea. They were denied a penalty against West Ham, a shocking decision, an absolute stone cold one as well. Harvey Barnes should have had another goal for Leicester against Tottenham. They thrashed them anyway, which is brilliant, but again, the referee, we'll get onto this in another game, but I'm pretty sure he drew the wrong line, didn't he? Mm-hmm. And Lamina ran too aggressively and got a second yellow card for Wolves. Obviously, just don't run fast. Is the clear message there. Crystal Palace then took on Brighton. Now, this one has a little bit more significance than the others, perhaps, because Brighton are having a terrific season. They're arguably pushing for their European places. Now, they drew 1-1 to Palace in the end. Solly March continued his incredible form. James Tompkins capitalises on Rob Sanchez's horrible error at the end of the game. I'm not sure if you saw that. I didn't even know James Tompkins was still in the Premier League. Yes, I'm not going to lie, but fair play to the bloke. However, there was an instant, Brighton should have opened the game. They had so many chances, and on one of them, Estupiñán, the left-back, comes in through the middle of the pitch and has a weird shot, curling effort. It goes in, basically. He opens the scoreline. It would have meant Brighton win 2-1 in the end. That's 3 valuable points. However, it was ruled out for offside. It was ruled out for offside because John Brooks on VAR actually draws a line for James Tompkins instead of Mark Guéhi. If he draws the line on James Tompkins, which he did, Estupiñán is offside. If he draws the line for Mark Guéhi, he's onside, which he should have because Mark Guéhi was the closest to goal. Mm-hmm. Isaac, what did you make of that?
I mean, it's just so annoying because I said the last time we had a big... I don't want to talk about referees, and I'll probably say that a billion times this episode, but the last time we had a big discussion about referees, I said convincingly, I think most fans won't make the mistakes that referees make. And do you think any of us would have gone, he's the last man? No, we have eyes. And it's actually inconceivable how bad the errors keep getting. Because how do you draw the line on the wrong player? Because then once you've drawn the line, the other side goes dark and goes red. And you can clearly see a Crystal Palace player is in that line. It's just stupid. And I mean, it's a goal. And it's just, I mean, what else can you say? It's mind-numbingly stupid.
Roberto De Zerbi apologised to Brighton fans after the job because they are so eager to get a win against Crystal Palace. It feels like forever since they have in that historic derby. But he was apologising. It wasn't really his fault. They had so many chances. They had a goal. It should have stood. Professional Game Match Officials Limited, PGMOL, PGMOL, have actually apologised to Brighton and said that was incorrectly made, that decision. They have apologised for it. Harold Webb did. Anyway, moving on to Arsenal versus Brentford.
Just let him speak.
We will come to Jordan at one point in this episode, but realistically, Arsenal drew 1-1 to Brentford in the end. Ivan Toney got an equaliser against Arsenal. That means Arsenal have dropped 2 points. It's not great for us trying to keep the lead on Manchester City. However, Isaac, why shouldn't have that equaliser stood for Brentford?
Where do you want me to start? I have like 5 issues with the goal. First of all, it's not a free kick. Ivan Toney is grabbing Sleeper and wins the free kick unfairly. You could say that's gamesmanship or whatever. Let's let that slide. And then they take the free kick. And eventually, at some point, Ethan Pinnock is offside and holding back Gabriel, stopping him from getting to the ball, blocking someone off. That's offside. Then it gets headed back and then headed back to Norgard. Norgard is offside. He heads it. Volleys it to Toney. Toney heads in the equaliser. There is 2 offsides. There's a foul. I don't understand how this goal got given. And the stupid thing is, their explanation for looking at that goal and getting it wrong is they were looking at Ethan Pinnock the whole time. So their explanation is we were looking at an offside and didn't realise about the other. So they were looking at something which should have been ruling it out anyway, didn't rule it out, and forgot to look at the man who assisted the goal. Imagine if he handballed and they went, oh, we didn't look at it. Like,
Lee Mason was on VAR.
Lee Mason was on VAR.
And they did say they did investigate the offside for Norgard, but they didn't do it in the proper way of drawing the lines.
Yes.
He just looked,
and
basically.
Do you know what the annoying thing is? It looks offside without the lines. You can tell he's in front of Ben White anyway, just about. And when you have goals ruled out consistently for, just a marginal thing, and then this happens, you go, and the stupid thing is, I hear so many people say, "Oh, well, it's a balanced thing. You get a decision your way, you get a decision." No, with VAR, you shouldn't get wrong decisions. With VAR, you should be getting these right week in, week out. To get offsides wrong I'm sorry, but Lee Mason should not be in a job next week. He shouldn't be allowed to referee. He's already retired from refereeing. He's lucky to be in VAR. He should be sacked right now. There's no excuse. And the excuse is he forgot. Do you want me to forget to come into work today? Do you want you to just forget to turn on your laptop?
Did he forget though? Because obviously in the statement they didn't say he forgot to check Norgard, because that would be horrific. However, it does seem like he couldn't really be bothered to check Norgard. And Jordan, I wanted to ask you this. Do you think the pressure in the moment because there's a lot of pressure from fans saying, Jesus Christ, make these decisions quicker? Because there's fans in the stadium looking up on the screen and they're thinking, how long is this going to take? Is this goal going to stand? And the referee in that moment is going, I need to be quick. I need to be quick as I can. Right, is he offside? No, he's fine. That didn't happen. Yeah, he's all right. And they just, in the end, cut corners that they should have looked at properly.
What?
There's no excuse.
Yeah, there's no excuse.
I don't think there's any fan in the world.
Do you think the pressure gets them?
No. Do you think if you asked any fan in that stadium, would you rather a fast decision or a correct decision? Do you think any of them would say fast?
And that's what I'm saying.
None of them care. In the moment, they're a bit annoyed, but the Arsenal fans in that moment are hoping for an offside. The Brentford fans are hoping for an onside. As long as it goes your way, you don't care how long it takes. That's all you're thinking about. And if they have to take 2 minutes to check a goal and rule it out to help our title charge, I don't give a crap. But do you know what? They just barely checked it. And the annoying thing for me is until PGMOL made that statement, there was no media response. There was next to no media response. There was a clear offside goal, and the commentary from what I've seen is just like, oh, it's a goal. I'm like, you've seen the replays yourself. Make your own mind up. And Arteta was probably going to be bashed by the media for having a go at the refs. And now looking back, I think he's been soft on them. Because we've had a goal which massively affects our title charge. I wouldn't have turned up for the press conference because I'd have said I forgot. You know, it's stupid. I'm sorry, but if we finish this league season 1 point behind Man City, I genuinely consider suing the Premier League for employing these referees. And I'd like to reference a Mark Housey quote. He's a former referee, retired in 2013. There's a fake quote out there. The first half is true, the second half's false. The second half, he basically says that all the referees could face court one day. That's fake. But the first half of the quote is completely and utterly true, and it was published. So this is 3 years after he retired. Basically, a player, Guerrero, was given a 3-game suspension after a match. And the thing is, when you're given a suspension after a match, you can only be given a suspension if the referee hasn't seen it. So if the referee's seen it, they can't do retroactive punishment. And he said, I've been in this situation when I've seen an incident and been told by PGMOL to say I haven't seen it. That's corruption. That's actual corruption. This is 7 years ago, literally admitting that PGMOL are telling you things. And he says, to be fair to the FA, it's not from them. It comes from within the PGMOL. They are. If 7 years ago they're actually telling referees, lie, where does the buck stop?
Well, I was going to answer your question until Isaac answered the question instead. But it's sort of like, if before VAR was even a thing, should it affect the referee if there's booing in the stadiums? No, it shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't, but I think it does. I think it absolutely does. 100%.
Then you shouldn't be a referee.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think it does. I was at a game this weekend. I see the referee came over, and it was at a much lower level than the Premier League. But the referee comes over, and he's kind of near the fans, and you see in his mind, he doesn't really know what to make of the decision, and then you hear the fans cheer, and he just goes, "Yeah, free kick." It's almost like they react to what they hear and go.
I think it happens way more lower level than upper level. The amount of times I've been at an Arsenal game and the atmosphere is calling out for a free kick and it's not given.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes they just like to go the other way as well.
Yeah,
this is speculatory, but I do think it gets to them. I think it gets to them.
I'm sorry, but I'm not siding with the referees. I'm not siding with them for 1 second.
I'm siding with
them.
them.
I'm not feeling sorry for them either. We're one of the few leagues where they're not volunteers. We're one of the few leagues where they are paid professionals. And if you're a paid professional, you do your job. And unfortunately, the referees in this league don't feel like they have to. And it's just painful to watch it week in, week out. I mean, we've only talked about the ones which they actually apologised for. How they haven't apologised for Mario Lemina's yellow card is absolutely abysmal. He got given a second yellow for running aggressively. By that mark, I'm pretty sure every single Man United player who runs the referee, or City player, or Arsenal player, or every single team which runs the player should be given 2 yellows every game, or 5 maybe. It's stupid. It's actually ridiculous. The West Ham penalty thing, that's just blatant. And the man who didn't give that on VAR is the head of VAR. And if the head of VAR doesn't know what a handball is, what the hell are we doing? Genuinely, what the hell are we doing? I think the best way we can improve this is genuinely changing who is in charge of this. either get rid of PGMOL. I think we should bring in foreign referees who have no bias, no real care of the English game, other than the correct decision. That should be what it should be. We've only got one foreign referee. Do you know what's funny? Out of all the English referees we've got, only like 2 of them aren't from Manchester or up north. Is that suspicious to you? They're all mates. They're all in their little pub, going chatting about, oh, you made a bad decision last week. Yeah, they don't care. They don't get reprimanded. They don't really get. They just get a suspension, which in other ways is a holiday for 2 weeks. That's what they get. It's generally, if I could compare it, I compare it to the police in America, in that they just get away with constant awful decisions, and they're not really given any bad punishments for it. It is awful, and if Lee Mason and John Brooks aren't sacked, it's a disgrace. And the funny thing is, John Brooks, after making that mistake, is on VAR for Arsenal Man City on Wednesday. And if that game has a dodgy VAR call in it, I think you need to protest at that point, because it's not an Arsenal bias, it's not a Man United bias, it's just they are all awful. I don't trust referees to make good decisions. Do you ever trust a referee to make a good call? I know for a fact I don't trust a referee to make a good call. And I said in the last referee episode, I want referees to go. I'd prefer a movement towards AI. In the World Cup, we had AI-assisted offsides. Why the hell do we have access to that technology and we're not using it in the Premier League? If it's the best league in the world, why don't we use that?
In the World Cup, wasn't the first goal scored ruled out for offside when it wasn't offside? Was that the one?
Yeah, there was.
So aside from that, okay, the technology looks superb, but however, I think these kind of things make mistakes anyway.
I think the point about bringing in referees from another country is a good idea, because you look at UEFA referees. I feel like UEFA referees are continuously better than...
I never feel, playing in Europe, that a referee is biased towards one side.
Yeah, no, never.
He's made it a bit easy for that side. I always feel like, do you know what? At least if they're crap in UEFA, they're crap towards both teams. That's what I feel.
Yeah. Because referees, in the Premier League especially, they obviously do these in European competitions, but for the English leagues, the referees do band together and they do say, right, we need to watch out for this player this weekend. He's been diving a lot, watch out for it. And does that just create a little bit of bias?
There's reputations and pre-thought before a game should not come in decision. The only thing that should come into a decision is the moment itself. And Joel, we're talking too much about subjective stuff. There's multiple objective mistakes this weekend which are unforgivable. And if a referee made it in Sunday League, they'd be, I don't know what would happen. They'd probably be kicked in the head. But, because Sunday League, they'd be attacked.
Which is a disgrace.
Which is a disgrace. I'm not condoning that. But in Sunday League, they'd probably be involved in a bar fight after the game. But this is Premier League. You are a professional referee. I'm sorry, but the view they take every time they apologise is very much like, I'm sorry, but, we made the decision, we make decisions. They act like they're above us because they've done the training. No, we're fans, and we know that's a mistake. We don't need the training to know what's a decision and what isn't. In fact, I'd argue referee training isn't really a thing. I'd argue it's just a few weeks in St George's Park with your mates running about for a while. I don't think half of them know football as much as any average fan.
Now, the implications for those two results, Brighton and Arsenal. Brighton could have been only 2 points off Tottenham in 5th. It would have cemented their position in 6th, a little bit more above Fulham, and pushed them towards that goal of being a European club even further. For Arsenal, it means even more. We are now only 3 points ahead of Manchester City. We do have a game in hand, but that would have put us 5 points ahead if we'd beaten Brentford on the weekend. In addition to that, if Man City beat Arsenal on Wednesday, they will go first in the Premier League, and we will be second. That's just huge implications. Isaac, are you worried about Wednesday night? Obviously, Man City come to the Emirates.
I'm more worried about the referees than Manchester City, if I'm being honest with you. Because play-wise, Man City actually suit playing against us. We play worse against teams who will defend and play like a low line and, put as many players in their box as possible. Brentford did that and countered well. And, that seems to be the way to get at us. I'm not having a go at them. That seems to be a tactic, and it's working. Man City won't do that. I think we have more of a chance of being Man City than we do with Brentford. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I think it's true. But, who's to say a referee doesn't make a dodgy call? And if you look at last season, Arsenal beat Man City, we don't get a penalty, Man City do. I'd argue our penalty's more of a penalty than theirs. If that happens and Man City don't win that game, they don't actually win the league.
Jordan is also on the podcast today. From a Manchester United perspective, What do you see of all of this? Because I mean, is it really bothering you? You know, Arsenal potentially slipping up in the Premier League, but then Man City are about to get another title.
I mean, I think that it's bothering me because, like, it could happen any week, any moment. Like I've heard people disagree with like the Casemiro red card, for example, against Crystal Palace, and said maybe there should have been another red card in there or whatever. We spoke about it on the podcast, but the fact that this is multiple games in 1 week, it could happen to literally anyone. There's no bias when it comes to refereeing, like you said.
Yeah, I think people think there's a bias because there's so many wrong decisions. The issue, I think the truth is, they just get so many wrong decisions for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
So, you know, we played Leeds on the weekend. It could have happened in that game. We play in the Carabao Cup final shortly. It could happen in that game. You know, it could happen any week at any time. So it is a massive issue. The implications of this week are just massive on near enough every decision that was made. So, you know,
Look, if we're going to finish on one note, I just want to say that what PGMOL says is they used human error as their explanation. I don't understand how you can use human error as an explanation when you have VAR. Human error is an explanation you give 5 years ago, not when you have the means to break it. And this is what I've always said about VAR. VAR, we don't get rid of VAR. VAR is the solution to all of our problems. The problem is that we are letting referees retire and go into VAR. The people who've been making these decisions all their careers are then going up and continuing to make these decisions in VAR. Why not just let them retire as referees and don't let them go into VAR? Because then the people in VAR are their mates. Oh yeah, mate, that was a good decision. Yeah, sure, yeah. Keep it. Like, no. They should be completely independent. And I think the entire structure of refereeing and VAR and everything should be built up, should be absolutely scrapped from the ground up. Because there's something wrong with I don't even know what to say anymore, because, you know, next week there'll probably be an even worse decision. Week after that will be a worse decision. And the only reason people are talking about it this time is because there was like all on the same day. If it was just the Arsenal game or just the Palace game or just, you know, I don't think people would be talking about it as much. But they are just as awful.
do you think if, let's say it was like the first game of the season, minus the implications, obviously we're still going to think it's bad, but do you think it would seem not like it seems worse because of the implications that it has at this stage in the season compared to the start?
I think that's true anyway, because I mean, we're talking more about Brighton and Arsenal because of their...
Yeah.
And they're the ones who have had the apologies.
Yeah.
Southampton haven't had, oh, not Southampton, Wolves haven't had an apology for, I'm sorry, but the reason they don't give an apology for West Ham Chelsea is because a handball is subjective. I don't know how subjective a handball gets, but that's the most subjective handball I've seen in my life.
Why is a handball subjective as well? That's
It hits his hand, it's a shot on target, he doesn't need to put his hand there, that's a handball. The Mario Lemina, because it's a yellow card, is subjective. Oh yes, let's give a yellow card. Let's go into the rule book and see where it says don't run at a referee aggressively. Like,
but does it? If it was the first game of the season,
then we should all be sent off. Like,
if it was the first game of the season, would we be talking about it this much? I don't know.
well, we should be.
We should be.
I
should be.
Perhaps if it was the fourth game of the season, or you know, maybe a number that isn't so. I mean, the first day of the season.
Arsenal Man United, that wasn't talked about too much, and then
Yeah,
2 months
that's
later
what I mean.
we got an apology.
That's what I mean.
I wanted to answer your point as well with the highlights, how this just wasn't talked about until TGMR actually came out.
Which shows that the media are just kind of accepting of it. I'm sorry, but if I'm in the position that some pundits are in, I'm attacking the referees. I'm putting pressure on them because I'm sorry, but in any walk of life, in any career, you should be expected to do your job at the nth degree. And look, there's either two explanations for these mistakes. Either A, they are deliberately corrupt and, you know, are making wrong decisions, or two, they are not fit for purpose. Either way, they should be sacked.